Little girl hears her dad's death sentence in court, then her dog does the unthinkable. The courtroom was colder than she expected. 8-year-old Lily sat on the stiff wooden bench, her legs too short to touch the floor, swinging nervously as she clutched a worn-out stuffed bear in one arm and her dog Max's leash in the other. Her big brown eyes darted nervously between the stern judge, her trembling father, and the clock ticking above the courtroom door. She didn't fully understand everything that was going on, but she understood one thing clearly: today, something very bad was about to happen. Her father, Daniel, stood handcuffed beside his public defender, his head bowed, lips pressed tightly. He hadn't looked at Lily since they walked into the courtroom. Maybe it was shame. Maybe it was fear. Maybe he couldn't bear to see the only thing in the world that had ever loved him unconditionally, sitting there, hoping he'd come home tonight. The judge's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Daniel Harris, you are hereby sentenced to death by lethal injection for the murder of Officer Ryan Keller. Gasps and murmurs rippled across the room, but all Lily heard was the sound of her heart shattering. No, she screamed, leaping from her seat. He didn't do it. My daddy didn't do it. Tears streamed down her face as she struggled against the arms of a bailiff trying to calm her. Max, her golden retriever and best friend since birth, barked and growled protectively, tugging hard at the leash until it slipped free from her hand. Then, something extraordinary happened. Max bolted forward, not in aggression, but with determination. The entire courtroom froze. The judge rose halfway from his chair. Officers reached for their tasers. But Max didn't go for them. Instead, he sprinted straight to Daniel and stood between him and the officers, tail still, eyes locked on his master. Then, he did something even more surprising. He sat. Calm. Defiant. Loyal. It wasn't the act of a dog protecting his owner. It was the act of a being who knew something the rest of them didn't. That night, the clip went viral. Loyal dog refuses to let innocent man die, the headline screamed. Millions watched the moment Max made his stand, and millions began to ask questions. Because Max wasn't just a pet. Max had been there the night Officer Keller died. And buried somewhere in the recesses of his dog mind were the sights, the sounds, and, more importantly, the scent of the real killer. Lily had told the lawyers before, Max saw it happen. He growled. He chased someone. It wasn't Daddy. But no one listened to a little girl. Until now. Animal behaviorists, forensic scent specialists, and an army of online sleuths descended on the case. A pro bono legal team was assembled, funded entirely by strangers from across the country who had seen a little girl's pain and a dog's impossible loyalty and decided to believe in something better. The retrial request was filed within weeks. DNA evidence, once dismissed, was re-examined. Surveillance footage from a nearby gas station, previously deemed irrelevant, was enhanced with new AI technology. A shadowy figure appeared, fleeing the scene in a hoodie, limping slightly. Not Daniel. And Max. He did the impossible. In a scent lineup, carefully designed under supervision, Max sniffed items from various suspects, his nose trained by specialists. When he reached a particular sweatshirt belonging to Keller's former confidential informant, a man with a violent past who had disappeared shortly after the murder, Max stopped. He barked. Then barked again. The results were recorded. Submitted. Challenged. Scrutinized. But it was enough. Enough to open the door. 1 year to the day after the first trial, Lily sat again in a courtroom, this time, beside her father, his chains gone, a suit replacing the orange jumpsuit, tears in his eyes for the first time since the nightmare began. I owe my life to a dog, Daniel said softly as the judge vacated his sentence and declared him a free man. And to a little girl who never stopped believing. The courtroom erupted in applause. Max, older now but still full of spirit, wagged his tail and barked joyfully as Lily threw her arms around his neck. The bear was gone, replaced by something stronger, hope. Outside the courthouse, reporters crowded around them, microphones and cameras flashing. "What message do you want to share today?" one asked Lily. She looked up, still holding Max's leash, her cheeks flushed with joy. "Just because someone says something doesn't make it true. You gotta listen to your heart, and sometimes, your dog." The crowd laughed, but some cried. Across the country, people were moved by the story of a wrongly accused man, a child's unconditional love, and a dog's refusal to give up. Daniel eventually joined an advocacy group for the wrongfully convicted. Lily started a program in Max's honor, Justice Tales, that trained therapy dogs to work with children in the court system, offering comfort and courage in frightening moments. And Max? He became a legend. He lived the rest of his life in peace, showered with affection, celebrated by strangers who saw in him not just a pet, but a reminder of something bigger, the loyalty that transcends language, the truth that lies in instinct, and the power of standing firm when it matters most. When Max passed quietly in his sleep 2 years later, his photo graced news sites once more. Tributes poured in. And at his memorial, attended by hundreds, Lily, now 10, stood tall beside a mural of Max. "Max didn't save just my dad," she said, voice clear. "He saved my heart. He reminded all of us what love looks like when it's brave." In the end, it wasn't just about a dog, or a courtroom, or even justice. It was about how one small act, a dog refusing to move, became a ripple of kindness and truth that swept across the world. And how, sometimes, the ones who can't speak have the most important things to say. The end.